spoken with BJI to try and understand kind of where the wheels have fallen off. So, and I'm really sorry, BJ, I'm going to paraphrase and hopefully I get most of this right. So, the idea for the board of directors kind of is 70 to 80% of what we're doing at the moment, but there is that gap that we need to address. So, BJ's vision was we kind of do what we're already doing already. We meet and we kind of go, where do changes need to happen? What are the good, what are the bad, what are the ugly? We then take that down the ladder to the deputy chiefs, which is what we're already doing today. Once that happens, and we've kind of got a structure going, which is kind of our agenda, that's kind of our milestone point to then stop and then try and schedule something with the board of directors. So that would be myself, yourself, Skylar, Shauna, and anyone else on the department who wants to talk about the changes. So I guess from a PHS side, that is would be Sky. I guess yourself, BJ. I don't know if we have anyone else off the top of my head. And then obviously off for mental health, Vanessa. Board discusses, we deliberate, etc., etc. The outcomes from that we then use to then schedule an EMS meeting, which we're already doing. And then we talk about those changes in this meeting. So the bit that we're missing, that 20% that we're missing, is that board meeting to discuss changes. So what I basically said to BJ, and I think you've agreed, BJ, that this is what we should be doing going forward. For the most part, continue doing what we're doing. What we're doing is great, but once we reach that agenda point, that's when we need to start organizing the board of director meetings to talk about these things. Now, obviously, that's going to be a bit of a challenge given where all Lag Brains reside. But I believe something should be achievable. And the worst case scenario, there's a secondary meeting that needs to happen to just inform people.
I mean, what we could always do for the people that the schedules really don't work out is we can just take a proxy vote. Say, hey, these are what we're proposing. Gets pushed through. What are your opinions? Gather their feedback, take it down, and then someone would speak for them at the board meeting, and we go from there.
I just don't understand. Because I went back through and I checked the emails. Both agendas were given. You have a response to the June one. You were tagged in the latest one. It was put there before. For you to then say that we have not been giving out agendas or giving those agendas.
So I think what BJ is trying to say is the bit that was missing is even though we put those agendas out there and they were visible to everyone, we never really got together as a board, as a proper board, to discuss those. I think that's what BJ you're saying, that's the bit that's missing. That's the bit that we need to work on to try and fix.
So we make a board agenda for EMS, but we don't for PHS. Because you told me to back off from PHS, so I did. You need a cough drop. Sorry, you don't.
I mean, I'm just talking about agendas in general because, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be things Chris is going to talk about at the meeting that I'm not aware about.
That's
the whole idea of the board of directors is it's a governing body for the hospital. You all put together these changes. and you discussed it as one entire entity.
I think the thing we also need to remember is this is a new thing for us, right? And where there are new things, we're going to get some things wrong. It's just natural, and that's fine. It's okay to get things wrong. It's just what we need to do is acknowledge that, you know, things aren't working and try and find ways to bridge those gaps, which is what we're doing now.
So are you going to organise the agenda board meetings then, BJ?
I mean, I could, yeah, but I mean, essentially anyone in the board could do it. You know, all you gotta do is you just gotta go, hey, you know, you got anything you want to bring up? And someone puts it all together, and then we do the meeting.
So yeah, I think what you're saying, BJ, is they're kind of more ad hoc, where I think IE was saying is more regular. But I think what BJ was saying is we have these meetings as needed. So it could well be, you know, as we're having these regular meetings, that these ad hocs actually turn into, you know, regular board of director meetings. But I think what the intent was, and correct me if I'm wrong, BJ, is if we have things to talk about, the onus is then on us to go, look, things to talk about, when's a good time for the board to meet to talk about these things?
Yep.
So,
Let me ask you this, you both this. Would you all rather be an entity that, you know, works for the entire hospital, or would you rather be an entity that works for a department?
well, that's the thing, is that when we did the board, you approached us as an entity that worked for the entire hospital. But the moment we tried allowing for things, you told us to back off from BHS. You told me to back off. So you excluded me. You exclusively excluded me. Whether that was malicious or not, you did.
So, again, and this is just my perspective, and I'm not trying to look to take sides. I'm just trying to look to give a neutral opinion. I think what was happening was we were doing what we thought was best for PHS.
No,
I don't think there's
I
anyone who can doubt
asked
that.
BJ, what do you want me to do? And his words were to back away.
So perhaps may have been a poor choice of words. But if BJ was to tell me that, what I would think, and this is me personally, what I would think is I've perhaps been going a bit too far into it, and understanding what I understand now, what really should have happened is we should have gone, we've got these things that we think might improve PHS. Let's organize a board meeting to talk about those things and have an open discussion.
But the moment we try and implement them, Farrell can easily go veto. Because he has that power.
That's fine. And that's fine. Do you know who else can veto Farrell? The man right next to me.
No, he didn't put that down. In written words, BJ can't do that.
I can veto any decision.
Then you need to define that.
I made that very clear.
At the end of the day, he is still the hospital director. He oversees all operations and has the ultimate power and the final say. I don't think anyone is disagreeing on that, are they?
I'm just upset. I'm sorry, BJ. You said that we didn't communicate, and on both times, agendas were given. And then you say they weren't. You made me feel like I was being excluded. That you were deliberately pushing me out. You made it feel like PD not contacting you was our fault, my fault. Do you want me here or not?
Why would I not want you here?
Because the way you've been acting makes it feel like you don't.
Okay. So what are some things then that we can do to try and bridge this gap? So instead of trying to focus on the problems, what are some solutions? Do you have any ideas, Aya, for how we can possibly make you not feel the way you feel? Because obviously it's not great, and I don't want you leaving the room feeling the way you do. Not if there's something that can be done about it. So do you have any suggestions for what can be improved? You know, we're all adults here, so feel free to be blunt.
Communicate with us, BJ.
Okay. Now, I know...
When we put an agenda out there, it's for everyone to do, to give. For everyone to go, here's, hit, miss.
Okay, so just to play this back to you, Aya, and make sure that, you know, we understand the language, what you're asking for is, you know, a better feedback cycle, right?
Yes.
Does that sum it up?
Yes.
Okay.
And to let us know that this is what we can do as well.
Right. Yeah. Again, correct me if I'm wrong here, BJ, but I think with what you've got in mind, if we have and we start to get better with having these board of director meetings, that feedback cycle is going to kind of close itself by doing that, right? I think that's the key component that we're missing.
You said that you... Sorry.
No, go on.
You said in that speech that, for example, Vanessa, that her ideas were not listened to. She may feel like her ideas were not listened to. She didn't feel listened to today. You just dismissed her. I've worked so hard to try and bring our relationships up with PD. So hard. I've tried doing everything for the EMS. Yet the moment something goes awry, or the moment we suggest something, you're not on our side. You're not there for us. You're there to belittle us and accuse us.
If I was here to do that, I would have never brought you onto the board of directors to begin with.
This is the way it's being perceived.
So, how can we change that perception then? Because that's the thing, perceptions can be changed. And just because something is perceived one way doesn't mean it's necessarily true.
I'm aware.
So we've only got one action from this to try and get better with these board of director meetings, which should hopefully help with the communication side of things. So what are some things that can be done with the perceptions?
Maybe talking to us one-to-one and finding out what really has been bothering us. Because I think there are other people within EMS that you need to talk to as well, BJ.
So are you suggesting, Aya, that where it's feasible to do so, that we kind of have these kind of regular one-to-ones, these kind of, 10-minute catch-ups?
Yeah, I'm not saying that it needs to be every week. I'm not saying it needs to be every 2 weeks. But there is...
once a month?
Even just a message. How are you doing? An email.
Do you think that's perhaps something we can try and aim for, BJ? I know you got a very busy schedule, and trying to get any time is a luxury nowadays. I don't know. Do you think that's something we can that you can do yourself?
I don't think it's me that I need to have this meeting with, though.
I mean, the thing is like anyone should be able to approach me if they have concerns. Come to me. The one thing that I've preached since I took over for Craig is if you have issues, come to me, talk to me. Otherwise, how do I fix them if I don't know about them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been super fucking busy here as of lately. Therefore, I've kind of put myself in a corner so I can hunker down and get shit done.
That's fair. And I'm not saying that's wrong.
I think we can all agree what shouldn't be happening is us getting to a point where we are now.
I think you really need to talk to Skylar. And...
Sorry, go on.
I'm around most of the time at the moment, BJ. Blake is there too. I'm aware that the last couple of weeks has been awkward. But I've talked with Shauna. I've talked with Blake. I've talked with Vanessa and I've talked with Sky. Why? They're all different times. Yeah, I know they're all different times.
Again, I think to BJ's point, if there are issues, we need to vocalize them. Right, we need to vocalize them to BJ. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, BJ, but there's a lot of things that you're learning for the first time. And all of this shouldn't be coming as a shock. So I think, again, to play the neutral party here, I think there's work that needs to happen on both sides. But if
we
there are
give you the
issues...
agenda. We gave you the agenda. Last month's agenda, you even replied to it. The ICU, Bolingbroke was in there. That was 5 weeks ago. Does it mean that you just don't read them?
I think the point is, I think, and again, I'm sorry for speaking for you, BJ. Feel free to jump in. There's a lot that happens on BJ's plate, and I think this was the point I was trying to make earlier. I don't think we can even comprehend just how much is on a director's plate. And, you know, even though you see these things, they're easily forgotten about as well. And, you know, the bit that was missing was these board of director meetings, which was a forum to get people together and talk about these things.
But if they're
But
ad
they
hoc
didn't get
people,
forgotten.
ad hoc meetings, you're not going to get everyone together.
And that's why we talked about these proxy votes. So like I was saying before, this is all a very new thing for us, right? We still haven't got things nailed down, and there's a significant amount of room for improvement.
But things like the Bolingbroke ICU, there's nothing we can do about that. That's a lawful order.
There's a fundamental disagreement. We can talk to the PD command, we can get the colonel in the room, we can vocalize from a pillbox perspective where we think the problems are. If we need to, we can get the Department of Justice in.
Okay, I'm not saying that there was a problem with that. What I'm saying is like these new additions to the rule, like I just don't know about them. I'm not saying I don't agree with this, because I 100% wholeheartedly do. Yeah, we've had an issue in the past where us putting 95s into ICU just leads for that higher number of breakouts. Like, I get that. I'm not saying I don't disagree with that at all.
But it was in the last meeting agenda as well. It's not new.
But to BJ's point, it was never talked about at a board of directors meeting. You know, going forward, these sort of things, if they are talked about at a board of directors, then, you know, everyone knows, everyone's on board. And, you know, if there are fundamental issues, we can take those in the directions it needs to go.
Do we need a board of directors start chat?
I think we just need to get better.
We just need to talk to each other.
Yeah. Need to get better at talking with each other and better at scheduling meetings. And from there, you know, obviously there's going to be other communication issues as we go on, but we learn and adapt, right?
I don't know how we're gonna have these meetings and communicate more when all I've tried is to communicate.
I don't think anyone's saying that you're not. I think what we're saying is the methods are not fully complete, and, you know, that there's bits missing.
Every point I put into that dark chat, I then follow up by talking to you, Shauna, talk to Chris, talk to Vanessa, talk to Sky. I talk to you, BJ, when I see you. How am I
So-
supposed to put more effort in? And all I'm giving is trying as much as possible.
I don't think for a second anyone's saying that you're not putting the effort in, or that it's not enough effort. I think what's being said is we're missing a step. And, you know, that step wasn't obvious to us. But now that we've had this conversation, we know what's missing, and we know what we need to do better. We can work towards those changes. We can, you know, we can have that first board of directors meeting, and we can figure out what's not working, what's not going well, and we can make changes. We can adapt, and we can have the second meeting with those changes, and then realize things still aren't quite working, and change and adapt. And we've got the third meeting, and by the 10th meeting, hopefully we've got enough things ironed down that it just runs smoothly. But we need to start with the first one. But I don't think for a second anyone's not valuing you or not appreciating you, because we certainly are. I certainly am. I honestly could not run this place without you. You are an incredibly valued member of EMS, of medical, of the hospital. I appreciate everything you do and everything you're continuing to do. It's just unfortunate that we've missed this step in the process. But again, I'm thinking, you know, really optimistically here. But going forward, now that we know where the problem areas are, we can strive towards having that unison and having that harmony. And if things aren't working, we need to say it's not working. If there are problems, we need to say that, that there are problems. If, you know, if we need to reach BJ for any reason, just be a text message of, you know, hey BJ, we need to talk, when's good for you. Because, you know, I think BJ's right. It's been a problem for years. We fucking suck at talking with each other.
I'm just asking for greater communication from BJ and to stop feeling like I'm being excluded.
I think all
deliberately
BJ's
and
from
feel
us,
belittled.
all BJ's asking from us as well is better communication. I think it's better communication on both sides. I think that's easily achievable.
I mean, if you want me to be completely honest, there's there's like nothing going on in the hospital. If I'm not talking about you about the hospital, because there's nothing going on. All of the things I'm doing is a lot of behind the scenes work. There's absolutely nothing for me to talk about.
Then if you're uncomfortable with something, okay. I suppose the best thing is to say, I just don't. And I know I'm not the only one. Feel like we're belittled. We're being excluded deliberately by you. And that may be not the way you intended it to be. That may not be the way that you intend your actions to be. But that's the way it's come across. And we've taken it because we know you're busy. We've taken it because we're aware that you want to try and keep peace and friendships. And it's grinding us down. And when I say us, I could name 3 other people, maybe 4, from your board of directors who feel that way. If we want to do that, great, let's start doing that. Let's start making those ad hoc board of directors meetings for the PHS. PHS, MHS, EMS. You've got to listen to us and not dismiss us. Not then make us feel belittled. Well, not belittled, excluded. Because that's not the way that you've done. You wanted that.
I'm suddenly feeling very, very sleepy. Did we want to continue this conversation
No,
afterwards?
I think I think those board of directors meetings are going to help. I just think it's not just me that BJ needs to speak to. We can have a meeting afterwards, but up to BJ.
Did you want to chat afterwards, BJ, or are you good?
No, I'm good. I'll just reach out to these people, I guess. Go hunker down for the storm.
Okay. Have a few days to think on it, and we'll talk about what our next steps are, okay?
I'm happy to go with what he suggested. Thank you. Door handles are here.
Hey yo.
Hey,
You okay?
I was just made to feel like things are my fault.
Hmm.